What up, y'all? Hope everybody's doing all right. Kicking off this Monday with a special live stream. We'll be inviting my buddy Lex on here in just a moment. Awesome dude, lead singer of Three Teeth. If you haven't heard, it's a great band. They do some really awesome, pretty unique music. Sounds like that. And he's a really big gun guy, which is pretty freaking awesome. All right. So we'll be talking to him tonight. And additionally, a lot of things happening in the world of the 2A, which we're going to be talking about some tonight as well. And also, last thing I want to talk about is, of course, the camera. I've got the same camera, but I've got all the doors open on it. I got the screen folded out, so we shouldn't have any issues with the camera overheating and all that type of fun stuff, all right? If we do, then I don't even know what to do about that, all right? So it just is what it is at that point. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is making sure Lex has the latest I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, link to the live stream tonight. Then I'll kick it off with a little bit of what you guys are talking about. In the meantime, have you guys checked out Monadnock Firearms? The homies over there have been supporting the channel since day number one. You should definitely check them out. They're online. They're doing really cool stuff. And yeah, you know, guns and stuff. Who wouldn't love that? Also, Trigger Hill. I've seen a lot of comments about Trigger Hill, about people not able to find the app in the App Store. And I'm here to tell you that's because it's not in the App Store. You have to go to triggerhill.com in order to download the app. So triggerhill.com is where you can do that. Don't miss out. And yeah, it's pretty much what I got for you guys tonight. You know, I am, let's see, on Trigger Hill. Pretty cool. That's great, Keith. Good to see you, man. I did see that we had a couple of comments come from the very beginning earlier today. I don't know what's up with that, how they just automatically delete with some time, but, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, 2A bourbon is in the cup tonight. It's kind of in a rush, yeah, putting kids to bed and everything else, getting down here. And I forgot to bring one of my glasses. I wanted to show off this helmet that I've been trying out from Ballistic Arms Co. I showed it my last live stream a little bit, but this one I'm liking, guys. It's got like, I might grab it when Lex is on the stream and he can talk to you guys for a minute. But yeah, I thought I left it upstairs. So I've been playing with it. But yeah, it's like got like memory foam for your head, and it's super comfortable. I've been wearing it, you know, just to try it out. Haven't been really wearing it for like a really prolonged length of time or anything like that. But man, it's pretty sweet. But anyway, 2A bourbon. Cheers to you guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in again. We are on the road to 100K, which you know what that means. That little camouflage rifle that you see right there. Yeah. Once the channel hits 100,000 subscribers, a kitted out one of those will be found in a safe near you, possibly. On my first live stream after hitting 100K, we'll do the random generator thing so we can have fun and do that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Anyway, so back home from SHOT Show. You know, we talked a little bit the last live stream, some about SHOT Show. I was only there for a couple of days. It was a really short one for me, the shortest one I've been to yet, or the shortest that I've made out of one yet. And yeah, you know, I'm starting to see even more and more cool stuff come out from SHOT. Thought that was pretty neat. And there are some things that I'm kind of excited for that weren't at SHOT Show. In fact, I have developed a little bit of a relationship with Licentia Arms, who you guys might know as a night vision company. And I'll talk with Lex a little bit about that because he's got some nods. And Monadnock Firearms, Rob over there, if he's watching tonight, I don't know. But he has one of their PVS 14s over there. I told him to put it behind the shelf or put it behind the desk because I might do that. You know what I mean? And it's white phosphor, you know, high FOM, high quality tube. It's just everything I kind of want in night vision, but I put up a poll on my Instagram about getting a PVS 14 now or saving up for binos later. And in the world of night vision, as I'm learning, I can say dual tubes, which that's different from binos. I didn't know that before. Like I said, I'm learning, right? You guys might be tuning in to learn some things. Well, I'm learning too. We can learn together, okay? Binos are much slimmer, lighter, designed as a dual tube, but not duals, right? So dual tubes are like two PVS 14s bridged together, or a PVS 14 and a thermal. And I've done the bridged PVS 14s. Very heavy, very cumbersome. Didn't like it. I just went right back to a mono, and I was very effective with that. I liked it. So, I was happy with that. But anyway, I was Lex, you're good. You're good. You're good. You can take your time. You can take your time. He's backstage right now. Looks like he's going to grab something. He's probably going to grab his helmet or something. I saw him looking like, oh shit, can I go? Can I go? But yeah, so he'll be joining on here in just a moment. And but in the meantime, I'll get to some of y'all's questions here, or some of y'all's comments, and talk with you guys. Jake, good to see you, man. I saw your order on magdupmerch.store. Greatly appreciate that. I'll be getting those orders out this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to our first super chat of the night as well. Mike, you, always good to see you. Greatly appreciate that, man. All super chats are greatly helping the channel as well, because boys and girls, I just keep wanting to do cool things. The reason I'm getting into this night vision stuff is because I'd really love to show some IR camera work. So I'll either be buying an IR camera, or a camera that's been converted to shoot IR, or sending off one of my other cameras, maybe this damn Sony that keeps overheating, and get it converted to IR. We'll see. So I'm doing all sorts of fun stuff in that regard, So all the super chats, all the donations greatly help. Greatly appreciate every last one of you guys. And of course, the biggest help is liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, and showing YouTube that we actually want gun content on their platform, because they don't. So anyway, Mike, time to donate to the wedding fund, since the nods are on hold. Channel's doing great. Clint, just keep doing what you're doing. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you, Mike. And we've got Lex over here now. I can go ahead and bring him on if he's ready. Give me a thumbs up if you're good, dude. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and let's bring Lex on here. Let's say hey to our man, Lex. What's up, dude?
Cheers, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Just poured myself a little bourbon, and the day is done. Nice way to finish the Monday.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. Well, it's good to see you, bro. First things first. What bourbon you drinking?
Just some Buffalo Trace. We drank through all the good stuff over the holidays, so I'm just like, this is what's left over,
When you came to visit, did you try any of the 2A bourbon?
We did. We were drinking.
Okay.
We were drinking in the middle of the day, actually.
I just needed to make sure. That's all. Oh man. Well, next time you come to visit, we got to do that again, and we got to shoot that night vision video. I was just telling the viewers all about the night vision stuff, and how you just picked up some nods recently, right?
Yeah, I did. I just got into that was my Christmas present to myself. Obviously, it's a big investment, but it's one of those things that buy once, cry once, and you're just gonna like anyone I bring in, like when I'm training with my buddies and let them try it, they're just like, God damn it, I need knots now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's the final level of just like, I hate to call it that tactical shit, but it actually really is one of those things that in terms of your capability, in terms of the functionality of it, it is such an unfair advantage. We were running a little timed course, and people were running white lights, which are great, don't get me wrong, but white lights are tough to shoot through sometimes because it creates a ton of gas up front. It's reflecting off of that. You can't see shit. You have to move away from that. Mm-hmm. You don't have that issue with night vision.
No, dude. So night vision's totally a force multiplier in that regard. And yeah, you know what? Before we go into much more conversation there, how are you? Because you got your truck stolen. You got your truck found.
I got my truck found. Bought a new truck. I have 2 trucks now.
They have 2 trucks. And then your city burnt down. That happened.
Yeah. I'm not like, I don't like totally claim LA. I mean, I have lived here for almost like 12 years now, but I spend most of my time like out in the Mojave. Like I lived in the desert for a while back here when we're like working on music and stuff like that. And obviously it's sad to see what happened. Particularly, I think more like the Eaton fires, where it's like, these are people who are like hardworking class people in Pasadena. Not to say that like, my heart doesn't go out to the people in the Palisades. Like losing a fifth of your real estate portfolio sucks. You know what I mean? Like that's those poor bastards. They lost a fifth of it. You know what I mean? Like these people are so wealthy, it's insane. I say that in jest, but they're gonna be, those people are gonna be okay. When your $10 million home burns down and your insurance company only gives you $2 million, but again, you have 3 other homes, you're okay.
Yeah, I guess that there is that.
But it was pretty crazy. I mean, like waking up and like the entire of Los Angeles smelling like a campfire was strange. I did have to evacuate one of my buddies from Topanga. His truck didn't start, so we did a little like, I had to drive into it. It was at one point they closed the road down. The police did let me in, and it looked like Mount Doom. It was like a volcano in the background. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So pulled him and his 2 dogs out. They ended up staying with me for like 10 days, which was nice, but also like it was a lot. We had like a little bit of a refugee camp in my house for a bit, but it's all good.
Yeah. Well,
big fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you and everybody's safe out there. I think honestly, dude, this is just the sign that you just need to move out east. You know what I mean?
I'm from the East Coast. I love some of the landscapes out here. Like to me, like I always say, like Los Angeles for me is not. It's a fucking cesspool, and California's politics are absolute trash. But in terms of the geography here and the sort of landscapes of Southern California and Northern California, it's really hard to beat. It's like just incredible land. And for a person that loves to go out and overland and adventure and explore, it's just so much, like it's hard to go back. It just feels so flat. Even New Hampshire's pretty, you got the White Mountains up there, but it's so flat compared to here. Like 4,000 feet is like big on the East Coast, it's like out here, that's a hill.
Oh, dude, I totally get that. I get it, the landscape and everything. But hey, we got trees and mountains and shit, and it's pretty fun, and we get this stuff called
what you have there is freedom. But that's truly what you have. You know what I mean? Which California, we don't have a whole lot of that. So, it's a trade-off. I really do. One of the things, I don't know how much we're getting into political stuff, but it is interesting to see how the state, after a thing like those fires, does seem to sort of have these like more like, all right, we'll politicize anything in this country. And, whoever is the people in power when the things go wrong are going to take the fall for it. And, whether or not Newsom has anything to do with it, it does make people go, fuck that guy, which everyone, fuck that guy. I'm not sure if he caused the fires, but, I think that in terms of needing a fall guy, I think that, maybe we might get a little taste of freedom in the wake of something like that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I get it, man. But like you said, we'll see. I'm glad though, like I was mentioning before, that at least you're safe and everybody else, you're before all that broke out, you got, like I said, your truck stolen, your truck found. Now you have 2 trucks. I mean, so that worked out. But I think
moment here,
Yeah, I think all of that was pretty much signs to get you out here, though. I mean, Kels is first of all, for those of you that don't know, Lex and I, we became bros because he knew my fiance, because you guys were friends for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then she met me, and she said, oh, you might like Lex and whatnot, and now here we are, bros, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was like, oh shit, Clint Morgan, like, I seen that guy on the internet as being, just a firearm enthusiast, and then the next thing you know,
a tool. You can say a tool, it's fine.
Yeah, the guy's a tool. No, I mean, to me, like the amount of shit I learned from you it's crazy. It's like I think there's a lot of people out there who are providing entertainment value, but I actually look at you as a sort of like knowledge repository, and I think that anyone who's sort of like going deep into the heavy, knowledge transfer autism of firearms, you got to go to a good place. So I think that you're a great service in some of my learning, so cheers to you, Clint.
Oh, well, dude, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Cheers to everybody watching and keeping me afloat over here. So thank you guys, But no, that means a lot, dude. Thank you.
What are you drinking over there?
The 2A bourbon.
2A bourbon, nice.
Yeah. Yep. I figured I'd change it up a little bit. I've been on the stretch of like my scotch a little bit. Now I'm like, all right, a little bit of 2A bourbon, So anyway, so Kels, she's also said that we're cutting back on all the alcohol intake. She's gone on like the strict diet before the wedding and all this stuff, and it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean by we? Right? Like I'm okay with where I'm at. And I'm like, but I have to stop. But I guess it's a we thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of what happens when you get married. Everything's a we thing, right? But
right.
Also, I mean, the way I look at it is you need to do a little training for the wedding. It's going to be a great party. So like last thing you want to be is like out of drinking shape. And next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I'm too drunk. Like you gotta build that tolerance up for a very long weekend down in Orlando, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. So it's happening here soon. We'll keep you guys updated. Maybe we'll do a live stream before the wedding or something. You know what I mean? Because there'll be quite a few homies, quite a few recognizable faces probably, but it's also a very it's going to be intimate for those of us there. But anyway, so you're out in California now. I know things are absolutely crazy, bro. How are things in the music industry right now?
It's good. I've got this really cool house here in Highland Park, and living with my guitarist Chase, who's also a really awesome producer, and we built a studio in here, and we've just been working on tunes, new album stuff, and just like writing some really heavy, aggressive stuff, and having fun doing it. So for us, it's sort of like one of those time periods where it's just kind of more focused on creating rather than having to worry about going out there and hitting the road or anything like that. So it's definitely it's more in a creative zone and really trying to like experiment, which I think is kind of fun when you have that time to like really find new tones and new sounds and create some stuff that like it's always hard to create something that hasn't been done, but like that's always the goal.
Right.
That's so we're having a good time over here.
Yeah, man. I've noticed Roaring Still Media over here. Thank you for the super chat. It says huge fan of Three Teeth, lifelong rock and metal guy. So disappointed most bands are anti-liberty. Lex, can you name 3 bands that are pro 2A? I want to support them. Right off the top of my head, I can think of another one.
I think that there's a cool band called Body Box. Check them out. They're definitely pro 2A. Dude has a Glock tattoo on his hand. They're like a little bit more of a niche thing, more of like a death metal band out of Florida, but they're pretty awesome. Obviously there's Phil Labante's band. Was that All That Remains?
All That Remains. That's who came to my mind too. He's actually local up here too, and I've been messaging him some about doing a video together. We were looking at, but he's doing a lot for the Timcast podcast.
Yeah.
And so he's not actually up here all that often anymore. And I'm like, all right, well, the next time that you are, I feel like it'd be pretty cool to kind of mesh.
Definitely do something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I feel like it'd be cool to kind of mesh the industries, you know what I mean? And I'm doing the same thing now with a little bit of like the car world, because obviously I love cars, right? I've got my 4Runner that I'm kind of like invested in right now, but before that, I was big into Porsches, had a couple air-cooled 911s, an 89 944 S2, had my Jeep that I loved. Got a Rob, who owns Monadnock Firearms. I saw him in the chat a little bit earlier talking about nods. He's got a 1947 Jeep Willys that's got a Browning 1919 attached to it.
Sick.
Yeah, it's semi-auto, but it's still a lot of fun. But, and I convinced him kind of to buy that, which was kind of fun. So I'm into the car world, and I was just talking with my nephew, and he's started his own business, and he's turned me on to this company out of Mooresville, North Carolina, which oddly enough, that's where I had my first job as a lifeguard, was in Mooresville, North Carolina. So like full circle over here. And there's a used car dealership that has some really cool shit. And they helped out a lot during the Western North Carolina's, tragedies that were taking place over there, called Motors America. So I'm like, yeah, dude, it'd be kind of cool to mesh all these different industries, because at the end of the day, whether you're into cars or music or knives, whatever it might be, the Second Amendment out of all this stuff is the only one that's actually protected in the Constitution, and the only right that states shall not be infringed. And it's like, so let's get together, let's do some cool music and guns, cars and guns, whatever else that industry might be. And so that shit's fun
over between all those industries. You know what I mean? I feel like in general, like, 9 times out of 10, the gun guy's also a car guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's something about precision manufacturing in general that, like, you sort of go, this is super cool. You know what I mean? Like the looking at an engine and being like, oh my God, like that's a beautiful engine. Which, I wish V8 engines were also protected under, because it seems like those things are disappearing left and right. You're like, wait, you mean you're going to tell me they're going to make, everyone's making fucking twin turbo V6s now, which I guess can produce some power, but it's not a V8,
There's something, whether you're a Mustang guy or not, and I had a 1990 Corvette ZR1. That was the first year that they dropped the LT5, which was pretty much technically the first of the LS series, the last of the LT series. But loved that car. But there's no denying that there's a certain sound of a Ford V8 that it's just awesome. You know what I mean? And another industry, I'm really big into planes.
I got a Silverado ZR2, and it's got that new 6.2 in it, and it's got the Borla S-type exhaust that came from the factory. The thing sounds so fucking badass.
Yeah, I freaking love that shit. Keith, by the way, he's a loyal viewer. Keith, good to see you, man. He says he knows Five Finger Death Punch is also very
yeah.
But another industry, and I'm really big into aviation and flying and things like that. In fact, I actually was looking at getting my pilot's license years ago, but I ran out of money. And so that's hence why Kels got me this Breitling, because on my bucket list, I was like, I'm going to own a Breitling one day. Like, this is my dream watch. And of course, she gets me the one that pays homage to my dad and I's favorite World War II warbird, the F4U Corsair. I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera for everybody, but there's a little Corsair on the back of this Breitling classic AV watch, Avi. And dude, I love it. And so that's the other thing is, growing up, I was exposed to a lot of pilots. Every last one of them carried guns. I didn't know a single one that didn't. And they knew all of the ins and outs of laws with flying with firearms, where they could, where they couldn't. And it's pretty much like driving, as long as your origin, your state of origin, and your destination have, pretty much the same type of gun laws, and there's no restrictions on what you're carrying, then you're good to go. You know what I mean? And so it's pretty cool. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting to see, these different worlds kind of mesh all under the Second Amendment, which love that.
Definitely. And also under like American made products. Like, I do think that there's one thing that I've noticed particular about the firearm industry, and that, like, there's such a quality behind and a pride behind what you're making. And like the idea that, like, if something happens with it, no questions asked, you send it back, they take care of it. Customer service is always good. Like, I think it's one of the last few sort of places that exists. And I wish that, like, other industries took a little bit more, I don't know, like cues from the firearm industry.
Well, I will say there are probably a few that might need to take those cues that are in the firearm industry, because just like any other industry, you're going to have your not so great companies to probably purchase from or whatever else, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of learning those reputations as you go. But I will agree with you to an extent. Like, this community is so ruthless. The moment that we think anybody's trying to pull one over on somebody else, it's like, damn them, damn them, damn them. You know what I mean? And that's just it. We have such a vocal community that we actually really keep each other accountable.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And so that's where these other, industries, like vehicles, right? Cars in general, huge industry, but it's so big. People just have, problems, whatever. Toyota, for instance, right? Dude, in the was it the Hawaii fires, is like driving through, his truck is literally melting around him. He's like rescuing people. Toyota just says, here's a new truck. You know what I mean? Like, bro.
That was the marketing department.
Yeah. Yes. And marketing's a big deal. Let's see here. We got one from Gregory saying, thanks for the super chat. You don't need to leave California. Move out to Temecula, Mariota, Riverside, Colorado.
I mean, I lived out in Yucca Valley, which is, you know, it's out towards that direction for about 4 years. You know, you're right. The minute you leave like Los Angeles County, even if you go up towards like, you know, when we were up at Terrans, you go up to like Simi Valley or Ventura County or whatever, it's like completely different vibe. It's just LA County in particular. It's like pretty brutal. But you know, it's funny, like an hour outside of it and you're like, oh, this feels like I'm in America again.
Yeah. Let's see here. Tanner, Tanner's a monthly member. He's also a very loyal viewer as well. Good to see you, bro. He said, Clint, once a month we should do a car talk live stream. That could be pretty fun. I just need to get like Wi-Fi in my car like you had, Lex. That way I could do the live stream from my car.
That's clutch. You got to have Wi-Fi. I'm surprised that the 4Runners don't have that.
I'm sure it's an option somewhere. I think they just dropped like their 6th gen, and looks like it's got some really cool features and everything, but I haven't taken a look too much into it. I will say I agree with Damian Christian over here about getting the Hilux in the United States. Of course,
technicals, absolutely.
Dude, we should have state-sponsored technicals in the States. You know what I mean? Like it.
I agree.
I'm just saying. But yeah, the only Hilux that I've seen in the United States was the one that Whistling Diesel got his hands on, and he absolutely destroyed it, but it somehow still managed to run. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think we actually saw one at the Agency Arms SHOT Show last year. Like I had a Hilux, remember?
Was that a Hilux?
Actually, maybe it was an old Tacoma. I can't remember. I haven't been to go back and look. But he had a pretty sweet technical with what he had mounted on the back of it. But
yeah, I do remember that. I just remember running into freaking Jim Fuller.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. That was kind of surreal. That whole moment was like
he was just chilling there, and it was so dark out, and so much was happening. I was like, I turned to you, and I was like, "Is that Jim
we
Fuller?"
were just like stuck in a tiny little cubicle with Jim Fuller, as like they were just basically flying, you know, like a Black Hawk over with a minigun shooting at like a gas bomb. It was awesome. It was great.
Dude, it was really cool. The Jim's was sitting there, and Kels was freaking out because she didn't know what to expect, and you know she's like, "Well, is the explosion going to be big?" You know, and we're like, "I don't know, maybe." And
no one was supposed to be where we were, but we were like, if Jim Fuller's here, we're fine because this is guy's like a national treasure. They're not going to hurt him. So like, as long as we're near him, we're fine. So.
Yeah, and she started freaking out after he said, "Oh, it's only a little heat and pressure." And she's like, "Heat and pressure? What does that mean?" And I'm like, "Just hide behind me. It's fine. You know, it'll be awesome." And little shockwave, little heat, little pressure. It was great. You know, that's all there was to it. But yeah, that was a really cool thing. That was the Agency Arms. They they called it something.
I don't know, but it was like,
I can't remember.
It was sort of like themed off of like, you know, the Wolverines, whatever.
Yeah, Red Dawn type stuff. Solo Gordo, what's up, man? Good to see you again. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Lex, what is your process when writing music? I'm a drummer myself. Your band's sound is great. Metal and guns are therapeutic for my sanity.
Yeah. I agree on being therapeutic for my sanity as well. In terms of our process, it's so funny. We very much don't like to hold ourselves to any process, just to sort of like make sure that we're not painting ourselves in a corner. That being said, I think that like a song for us can really start at any place. It could start with a guitar riff. It could start, you know, with a vocal line. It could start with a really weird, you know, process synth line, or like a synth bass, or an ARP, or very rarely does it start with drums. Not that it's like drums in many ways are the spine of the track, but for us, like we end up like, we program a lot of our drums, or what we will do is we'll have our drums played on like a V-drums kit. And then because it's more of an industrial sounds, we end up sort of like quantizing a lot of stuff or writing it around it. So, you know, we don't have so much of a process because we're not like your typical like, hey, let's just like track guitars here, like everyone's in a room writing. We're very much so like more of an industrial sort of sound that, you know, we get all our ingredients and then we like throw them into the industrial grinder to get some of that. And it's a ton of crazy processing and experimenting and re-racking with pedals and outboard gear and just sort of getting like those textures that make shit sound crazy heavy. So more of a very nerdy process, I suppose.
Well, it's a pretty sweet process because if you guys listen to the intro music at the beginning of my videos and things like that, that's all due to Lex and his boys.
Yeah, I mean, that was a me and Chase thing, and I feel like that's funny because we don't usually get to write just like some sort of boom, clack, boom, rock stuff. So that was fun.
Yeah, dude. I mean, hell, this was let's see, where can I bring it back on stage? Like this was, you know, this is it, you know. That's you. Oh man.
Like that snare right there, that's a dirty sounding snare. Like that's like an industrialized, verbed out, heavy transient splashes on the snare, which, you know, that's a vibe.
Dude, it's so freaking cool, man. So my buddy Justin up here, good to see you, dude. He's wanting to know our thoughts on Matt Carricker, you know, retiring from Demo Ranch.
Yeah.
And you know, I gotta say, you know, having worked with Matt, you know, talked with Matt, you know, and we're not like, you know, best bros or anything like that. I don't call him up on the weekends or anything, but knowing him personally, you know, he's a family oriented dude. And I think ultimately my thoughts on it, he did it, you know, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Do what you want to do it for as long as you want to do it, make a lot of money doing it, and then retire, you know what I mean? And spend time with your family, especially at a young age. That's the goal. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny though, to me, it seems like what I would want to do if I retired. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm retired, I'm just gonna have Demo Ranch. Like the idea that somehow it just goes to show you that, like, you know, no matter what you're doing, and I can relate to this in music where, you know, people say like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. It's not true. It's always work. It doesn't matter if you're up there performing in front of a crowd of people every night and you go, man, this is like what I dream, this is what I want to do. It's still another day in the fucking office for somebody. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I respect it, and he did it. Is it still something that I'm sure we all go, what? That's crazy. I would love to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get it, bro. Like it is an absolute grind. Like I'm probably, unfortunately, I've just got way too much happening this week, and I don't have. And you and I just recently talked about this, like last week. I just don't have the infrastructure right now to actually put out as much content as I'd like to. Keep in mind, it was a collaboration of us at Classic that ultimately said, with me really like hammering down, we should do this, putting out a video every single day, which came back to bite me in the ass, like, you know, 2.5 years later, because I was burnt the hell out. But even right now, I'd like to maintain my weekly video. And I was kind of playing with which days to upload and things like that. And obviously, I think Grantham's still a mover and shaker in the GunTube world that I've noticed uploading on Sundays typically bring a little bit better views. That's because people are all over YouTube watching GunTubers already. And then hopefully my video is recommended afterwards and I can kind of piggyback some of those views and whatnot, right? So those are typically for engagement the best day of the post that I have found. I'm probably not going to get one out this week. Newsflash, everybody, because I've got some stuff to do this week. And as I was just saying, I was talking with Lex about this last week, that I would love to have the ability to have a team where that could help me, you know, produce as much content as I'd like to. But I'm still working full time with GOA. I still have, you know, I look at my you know, my business as the Magdump merchandise store, which I'm behind on getting orders out. I'm sorry. I'll work on that. But I'm also trying to upload as much content as I can on YouTube. And it's like, dude, it is a grind. So honestly, I applaud Matt for sticking with it, doing it, and ultimately reaching that end goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a ton of work. Anything these days where it's like, you know, sort of everythingism, as they call it. You kind of have to do everything. You know, this idea of like, oh, I'm just going to be hyper specialized and work on one thing, and maybe I can, like, you know, make something happen. No, if you want to get something off the ground and build it, you have to be, you know, the janitor and the CEO. You have to be willing to do every facet of your business, and it's tough. You know?
Yeah, if everybody could see in front of me, I'm lacking at the janitorial part of my job. By the way, there's Kels, aka future Mrs. Magdump, right there. Like within about a month, she's talking about that night with Jim Fuller. A little pressure, a little heat. She says, "Hey, now in my defense, I was worried I was going to pass out like I did on the Disney ride Mission Space. After that ride, my astronaut days are over, and I'm over here like I wanna do that. I want to test my G force resistance. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to do that.
You just red out, I think they call it, when you're just like so much blood just goes to the top of your head.
And you just pass out. It's doing those short little, you know, trying to keep the oxygen up, man. I saw a video recently where it showed, you know, like guys our age, you know, passing out.
You age like 10 years when you do it too. It's
sometimes it looks like you almost age 30 years, man. I saw one where it was like this, what we all could probably agree on, like this younger, attractive girl, but it starts off with her in the middle of her G's, and you're like, dude, she's like 60. And then she lets off. You're like, oh, you're 30. It was hilarious, dude. But I saw this one video where this World War II pilot, after all these young guys were passing out in this jet, he gets into it and he's like looking around, smiling and shit. You can't tell he's aging because he's already, like, you know, old and everything, but it's absolutely hilarious. And this just goes to show what a fucking badass he was and is, I guess. And man, it's awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a shot. I probably wouldn't last long, but I'd give it a shot, you know?
Yeah. I'd give it a shot too. I just wouldn't eat anything beforehand. Tanner's saying, hey, you know, that's the key to investment and making smart financial moves. Spend money to make money. Except the move I'm wanting to make right now, by the way, Lex, you'll probably find this pretty interesting. I had a really good phone call with Licentia Arms today. And these dudes, I've been looking all over the market for night vision. I'm in the market, but I also know, as you mentioned before, it's a big financial investment. And you got to make it an investment. That's the thing, you know, like in my case, I have to make it make sense. And I have a whole new respect for Licentia because I've talked with a bunch of others, but Licentia, the owner, is solid. He did not try to push a sell or anything. He didn't mention, you know, price, anything like that. Made it clear, like, hey, this is an expensive game to get into, but he pushed education over everything. He said, this goes for anybody. Tell your viewers, tell anybody that if they just want to call with a question, we got that. Like, if you have a question about night vision, you're interested in getting to it, call Licentia Arms. We're gonna help you every step of the way, even if you choose not to go with us, because we understand at the end of the day, just normalizing and making night vision a regular thing will help the industry. He's like, so just get out there and do it. I was like, dude, I have,
you know, it's one of those things. There's so much information and it's so technical, and there's so much conflicting information and different ideas that, like, you almost get like a paralysis by analysis. And you know, I was shopping the concept of getting night vision for you know, maybe half a year, and I didn't know what to get. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know it was like, you know, it's not like you get to try before you buy, you know, like you really have no idea what you're getting into. You're lucky if maybe a friend has a pair of nods that you try, and you get a sense of like, oh, this is what it's really like, because it's like, you know, it's like buying a car, but you've never driven the car. It's you know, or never even driven a car before. It's crazy. It's a crazy investment. But sometimes you just gotta, you know, pour a couple drinks and get that credit card out and just dive into the deep end and go, all right, this is what it is now. But it's cool. Plenty is like willing to sort of take those calls and do that consumer education. What are you thinking about getting?
So, after having that conversation that lasted about 30 to 45 minutes today, my head is like scrambled eggs when it comes to night vision now. Not because what he said didn't make sense. It just made me want to think about a whole lot more. You know what I mean? Because at the end of it all, I can rock a monotube. I can run a PVS 14, like that's my bitch, right? Like I can run a PVS 14, and I've taken classes like usually I try to lead by example and be a little humble, but I've taken classes, run different drills with people rocking duals, binos, and they've got, I would say, easily about $20,000 to $30,000 worth of higher end. I have gear, but the gear that they were running was just, 10 times as much as what I had into mine. But they were behind me and less accurate. Let me just say that, right? And I'm like, y'all should probably train and practice with your shit more instead of spending so much money. And that's why I've preached so much on my channel. Like, look, it's all awesome to buy the most high-end shit ever, but I'd rather you go, instead of buy that Radian R1, I'd rather you buy that IWI Zion, a couple thousand rounds of ammo, a decent optic, a decent sling, a good light, and a couple of classes.
Yeah. Because
you could do all that for the price of a Radian R1. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay. So now, I'm still looking at, articulating ruggedized. I love that idea, but he's let me know about some stuff that might be coming to the market that's articulating ruggedized with manual gain, because he's saying there's ruggedized, but you might lose out on different features that you might actually really want, like having manual gain. And so that's something that he really was talking about, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty solid. But either way, I mean, I'm looking, if I want to go with something high end, not make a compromise somewhere. He also let me know that I'm wondering what he did say I could say or not, but he let me know that for this year, he's okay on L3 tubes. Let me just say that. But that's changing. There's a whole bunch changing in the market right now with night vision. That's going to be the night vision game is forever changing. But anyway, so with all that,
I've seen like on from SHOT Show, like tubes that pan outward, like make you sort of like it look like wall-eyed, which I didn't fully understand like what benefit that would have.
Yeah.
But
peripheral, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's that compromise between binos and
it's opening your field of view if need, I suppose. But to me, it's sort of like, I don't know, just turn your head. I don't know, but whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I guess my thought is, if you look through them and they're expanded outward, are you losing field of view in the middle? Which seems like the worst place to lose a field of view. But I guess that's why there's like detents that allow them to go at 3 different angles.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm watching a video from like, Cold Harbor Tactical or whatever, and I was like, all right, here we go. Now I'm deep diving down something I'll never need to understand, but
but I'm still, it's one of those things where it's like I still want to dig that rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Oh man. But yeah, dude. So I'm really excited about this. But either way, I'm at the end of it all, the price range on this is going to be anywhere between, like, I would say on the low end, if I decided to go with a PVS 14, probably $5,000. I know there's cheaper ones on the market, but buy once, cry once. I want this to last the rest of my life. And maybe one day I can sell that to buy a set of binos. But let's say low end 5,000. If I get exactly what I want, I'm probably looking at closer to 12,000. You know what I mean? And it's like, God dang, dude. It's a little disheartening, but at the same time, it's one of those things, like you said, the moment you shoot with night vision or you go outside, and it's not even so much like just the firearms industry. There's people just getting into just being outside in nature that just want to have the opportunity or the ability to be able to walk through the woods.
The observation
light.
Is fascinating. You know what I mean? It's just cool. Like, just to sort of walk around at nighttime and it's like, you are now like, you have a weird superpower. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I can see things I couldn't see before. And then when you take them off and you're like, wow, it's really fucking dark out here. Like, that's a cool, you know what I mean? Like, one of the things I did do, which I haven't told you. So I ordered some Baja Designs IR ditch lights for my truck. So those should be in next week, and then I'm going to have, I have regular ditch lights, but to be able to switch between IR so I can just drive around in the dark in the desert, which why do I need that? I don't know, but I knew I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Solo Gordo brings up a really solid point. Like I also say this, like, hey, having one fully kitted out gun's a whole lot better than having 10 that aren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a really hard time wanting to separate with any of this. You know what I mean? Like any of it. It's kind of crazy. Like the moment that I feel like, okay, I'm going to sell this one to add to the nods fund. The problem is I'm gonna have to sell several to get to that point. But I look at it, I'm like, but I could use that for this video. I could use that for this content. I could use that for this. Oh, that's a great training tool. I could use that for a student. I'm like, there's not one thing. Okay, I shouldn't say there's not one thing. There's probably a couple things I wouldn't mind parting with, but there's still these areas. I guess it's that hoarder in me that's like, you should probably hang on to that because you're probably going to need it one day.
Yeah, selling a gun sucks. And it's also like you're just going to go, I used to have one of those. Like so many people have that conversation. I don't ever want to be that guy being like, oh, I used to have that. And you're like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I am that guy. Like with my cars, I should have never, don't we all say that, sold my 1979 911 SC Targa. I kick myself to this day. That and even my ZR1, which was the last sports car that I owned, actually. I get kind of scared sometimes when I see these cars because it's like, I come into these cars, just like with flying, I realized I couldn't afford it. It's like I was too young and too dumb. And then it was like, all right, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. I'm going to trade for that. I'm going to, bargain this, sell that one to save up for that one. And then I'm going to bargain that one off or trade that one off. And then I can come into that. And man, I should have just, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Right. But yeah, that's the boat I don't want to be in.
For you. I feel like you should be able to write off night vision on your taxes.
Yes.
Which is another reason to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like at some point, you're going to go, how much am I going to pay in taxes this year? And you kind of just go, oh, cool. Let me just write this off. So I don't, not to mention you have acreage up there. You have a lot of property. I feel like it is like an actual responsibility for you to have them in that type of area. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I love your justification for it because it makes so much sense.
I mean, I told myself I wasn't going to get them until I was like, until I have like an acreage to protect. But I was like, I did a thing for Fortnite, did some music with them. And I was like, oh, I got the money now. Guess who's going to fucking buy night vision? And then, now I got night vision, bro.
There they are. That's what I was waiting to see.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, after you get it, you just go, I'm so fucking glad I got it. There was no buyer's remorse anywhere on this thing.
No, for sure, dude. Let me get back over here really quick to Roaring Still Media. Solo Gordo, I saw your other one. I'll come back to it here in a second. Clint, great stream. Cheers, Lex. Bring Three Teeth to Miami. Don't forget us down here. You rock. Keep it up. That's awesome.
I used to live in Miami. Miami was my old stomping ground of mine. And the only problem with Miami is the routing is so impossible because it's, bands will play. The routing will take you into the panhandle, but it doesn't really get you down 9 hours down into Miami because there's not enough venues down there to play along that way. So it kind of kills routing. That's why you get a lot of like electronic music and fly-ins and stuff like that in Miami, but not a lot of bands. Although there is a pretty good scene in Miami of good bands, which a lot of people don't know. But yeah, we have played Miami, not for a very long time, but it was a very good time. Miami is always a blast. So
yeah. Thank you, Roaring Still Media. Appreciate that. And I know Lex does too. All of you guys that support us, him, me, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Solo, he's wanting to know your favorite caliber and favorite current firearm.
I feel like
such a hard question.
It's always like my favorite firearms, like for whatever reason, like, I don't know, like I have a 1301 that I've just been having so much fun with.
Yeah. Oh, don't show a gun. Don't show a gun. YouTube's going to shut it off.
I love how you have like 100 guns behind you, but like,
But the moment you handle one. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. YouTube's a bitch.
That's crazy. So 1301 Beretta Mod 2. I love that gun, and for whatever reason, I've been like obsessing over the versatility of the 12 gauge in terms of it's like how much you can do with it. Like, you know, for home defense, I'm just hard pressed to think there's anything better than a shotgun because situationally, I mean, you have 9mm, you can't be like, oh, let me put this type of 9mm. I mean, yeah, because 124 grain, whatever, 115, you know, you could put, you know, a couple different loads of something per caliber. But in terms of like, you know, what you can do with a shotgun, I feel like is something that, and I feel like shotguns are having a moment right now, which is cool. You know, like for a while, shotguns were like not super in the conversation with stuff, but now I feel like, you know, companies like Langdon Tactical and Iridius, like there's just really cool shit for shotguns right now.
What Eridus is doing for the 1301 and the A3. Yeah, dude, it's cool shit. All right. I'm glad you bring this up though. Before we go into home defense, because this is going to be a fun conversation to have, let me get to the other super chats that were about this really quick. So the Barefooted Gardener, good to see you again. What's your thoughts on USSC kicking the assault weapons ban case down the road again? Particularly wondering Lex's thoughts where he lives.
I mean, for me, I just always have some sort of strange hope that, you know, I'll be happy if I can get a suppressor. That's the only thing I give a shit about. But in terms of like the assault weapons ban, the whatever we have here in California is so ridiculous and so unenforced in terms of like, oh, you can't have a foregrip or you can't have a flash hider. You have to have this stupid fin grip. I think all those things are completely unenforced. And, you know, there's a sort of like mass non-compliance around that stuff. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but my personal perspective is, you know, carry whatever the fuck you want and, you know, own whatever you want and build whatever you want. And if the laws catch up, cool. If they don't, whatever.
Yeah, as it should be. The laws shouldn't exist, but, you know, just like taxes. But yeah, no, that's well spoken. I appreciate it because it's unfortunate, you know, like it is so funny, almost the polar opposites in which where we live. But I'm glad you kind of brought up about like, you know, this mass non-compliance that exists all throughout the nation, actually. And that how a lot of gun laws, especially in these very heavy gun control states, aren't enforced. But let's say you commit a higher crime with a firearm that has more than 10 rounds in the magazine or a capacity of over 10 rounds. Now they're going to tack that law on as an additional.
They're tack on charges. They're like, oh, we raided this guy's house, found a kilo of cocaine, and then we found a 30-round capacity magazine on it. You go, okay, cool. Like, let's also just tack that on. But in terms of being like a law-abiding citizen, you know, whatever, don't drink and drive with guns in your car, don't fucking speed, you know, just, you know, bring your guns to where you need to shoot them, keep them, you know, safe. But at the end of the day, if you want to, you know, run that 10.5, fucking do it. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't know, like California.
By the way, neither one of us are lawyers. All right.
Yes, we're definitely not lawyers. But I do believe that at the end of the day, all gun laws are complete bullshit. At the end of the day, they don't really enforce anything. They don't help anything. I think if they did and there was evidence that somehow, all right, this gun law actually somehow does this, then there might be a case, but there's nothing. No. There's no piece and no shred of evidence factually that supports any of it. So it's certainly not what the way those California, those guns that they build in California are like abortions. They should not exist. They're ugly. They're horrific. I think they do that to the gun to make you not even want to own one. That's what I think is probably effective about it. You go, like every kid who's like, oh, I really like that gun. And you go, oh, that's the version of it I can get? Never mind. I don't even want that gun.
Yeah, that's exactly the conversation we had at Terran's when we recorded the CF podcast out there. Because it's like, yeah, you want to make these guns because you want to own the guns that, you know, you see in the movies or you see whatever else. You know, like I've always had a thing for the M60 after watching, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I mean? Or also just, you know, liking the M60 because it's fucking cool. But anyway, caveat, Kelsey and I's first date, she rented an M60 for me to shoot, by the way, full auto. That was the first time I ever shot one. And I was like, I'm going to marry this chick. And here we are with kids. But anyway, coming back to it, what these states do, especially California, is they want to take away that aesthetic that you're attracted to that would perhaps prevent you or actually turn you on to buying it. Now they want to make it like that abortion that you said, make it so ugly, so hideous. This isn't what I play Call of Duty with. This sucks. And
try and confuse you to the point of fear, to the point of like the gun legislation is so confusing.
Yeah.
Like how you can have your rifle and you're like, oh, and it just kind of people get paralyzed in the process of trying to be like, hey, I'm actually like a law-abiding citizen. I want to actually follow these laws, but I'm so confused by them that maybe I just won't own a gun. And I think that happens with people. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, well, especially like first-time gun owners who are like very nervous about it, on the fence, and they go, well, I don't know, I just don't want to get in trouble about it. And you go like, all right, cool. Well,
or they do the stupid thing and they email the ATF asking, hey, will this make me a felon if I put a brace on my AR pistol? You know, like,
insane.
Bro, don't.
Insane.
Just follow the rulings that gun owners of America have already established for you whenever we slap the crap out of the ATF and say, hey, don't do that.
That's like I sort of follow like, national legislature on firearms to a certain extent, where to me, I'm like, if it's legal in the rest of the world, then I don't really give a shit about like California in that respect. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Like, unfortunately, like I don't really fuck around with like too much. Like I just can't get a suppressor. Like it's impossible. So, that's the one challenge I think in California. It's like, it's just the sheer possession of it is just treated in a very severe light.
So there's a House bill for New Hampshire right now, just to kind of twist your arm a little bit more. There's a House bill that's currently being looked at, that will make all silencers and NFA items produced in the state of New Hampshire that stay in the state of New Hampshire non-NFA.
I think Texas has that. It's a suppressor sanctuary city.
Yeah, Tennessee, I think, also has it. I think there's a few states that have it, but New Hampshire, they're looking to do the same thing. And I'm like, yes, please. Because if you think about it, I mean, we got Q up here, which that's always kind of fun.
You have great manufacturers, It's the idea of saying, hey, cool, let me grab one of these, which it should be. The idea that certain things are regulated in the way. I actually find it really annoying that night vision is as regulated as it is.
With ITAR and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, I want to go on like a hunting trip in Canada. It's like, no, you can't bring your shit up there.
Yeah. Or there are some laws about hunting with suppressors, hunting with night vision, even shit like that. And it's like, why? Like don't limit me. You know what I mean? Like don't put restrictions on me just because I'm able to provide for my family a little bit more efficiently. Which
is a true testament to the force multiplier that night vision is. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't leave the country with this because you could essentially like go run a third world country with these.
Right. Oh man, Justin, again, good to see you, dude. Thanks for another super chat, bro. The problem is nods are just a first step. LOL. Need lambs, ways to record night vision videos. It's a rabbit hole. You'll be fine.
The lambs are coming. Lambs are. I feel like the barrier of entry to lambs are coming down. I feel like technology is starting to push the lamb game in a way that they're not astronomically expensive, and they seem to be just getting better. Like, I mean, the iris seems like it's pretty cool. I know that Holosun just dropped that. There's some companies out there making some cool stuff. I think Arasaka makes a pretty good one, the DIR. But, you can get into the lamb game for a pretty decent price now.
Yeah. And I think, a SIG, because Justin at Rob's at Monadnock, I mean, he's got that beautiful SIG display now for some of their new night vision stuff, which is like just really cool. So there's all sorts of neat things that are coming.
And to record night vision, that is certainly a quagmire to figure out. But yeah, there's
Life Pixel. That's so that's when I was with Classic. That's who we got to convert our camera so we could do the night vision stuff, and that's who I'm probably going to go through now. They have like used cameras that I can buy, things that are already IR converted, which is super cool. So that way you can see the lasers and pretty much everything that we're seeing, you know what I mean? Which is pretty sweet. So when I get into this game, not a matter of if, but when I get into this, that's exactly probably the route that I'll be going. So it's going to be even more expensive than just buying the binos, you know what I mean? It's going to be, yep. Yep. Jake, thanks again for another super chat. Thanks for being a monthly member, bro. Guns and guitars are the same. Very hard to.
It's very true.
Yeah.
They have a soul factor. You know what I mean? They have these sort of sentimental value that they're more than sort of like just objects. So parting with them has become very difficult.
Yeah. So Kels over here again, because she's bringing up a really good point, which is actually going to circle us back to shotguns for home defense. All right. So we had a friend of ours in town who's Kelsey's maid of honor, Indigo, pretty much like a little sister to her almost. And she got exposed to this for the first time. Like, this is like, she actually got like to hold a gun for the very first time. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to actually get outside and do some shooting. But when she comes to visit, we'll do it again. But you know, she was pretty fascinated by all this. I kind of gave her kind of like a dry fire run through, and Kels asked her, she was like, "Hey, what's an assault rifle?" Right. And she looked at this wall and was like, I mean, you know what I mean? And it was a pretty funny moment. And then when we started talking about it in the kitchen upstairs, I kind of had to like run it down. And I think most of my viewers know the difference between an assault rifle, a light machine gun, a battle rifle, a bolt action, a lever gun, you know, like all these different classifications of legitimate firearms. The only one that doesn't technically exist is what Kelsey has in quotes here, which is an assault weapon. And she's asking it. So just in case, you know, maybe some of your viewers are here, Lex, that might not be as big or familiar into firearms, but they might know a lot more about music and, you know, musical instruments than I ever will. I played the clarinet when I was in middle school and I sucked, you know what I mean? So that's pretty much my musical talent. I'm really good at singing in the car when nobody else is listening, you know? Mm-hmm. So, but, you know, this is a conversation that's been had time and time again. Assault rifles exist. They are very real things, and they should actually be more commonplace than what they already are. They are common. Like, I guarantee you, most gun shops you walk into probably have an assault rifle that you can either rent or even buy, right? And that's a magazine fed, select fire capable firearm shooting an intermediate cartridge. So the AR-15
in English, the people that don't know, that's just an automatic weapon.
That's an automatic weapon for the most part. So the AR-15 checks all those boxes except for one very important one, and that's being select fire, right? Now, obviously, you can, if you're a manufacturer, you go through the proper channels. You can have a lower receiver that you turn into a full auto, but again, there's a lot of things that you have to do to get there, which unfortunately you do.
But you can get all this stuff. You just have to be rich. That's the funny thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to go buy a machine gun, you just have to be rich. It's not that they're unavailable. And, you know, again, it's like, there's a certain classism in firearms that I think is unfortunate. You know what I mean? Especially with gun legislation. All gun legislation does is sort of make it so that only rich people can have stuff. Especially in California, you have a 11% sin tax now, which is like, okay, cool. What is that benefiting? It's just making it more expensive. It's just pushing stuff out of people's price ranges. After 10%, you basically have 21% tax on all firearms and ammo, which is insane. So, like, at the end of the day, I think that, you know, these things that say, oh, well, we're going to generate revenue for this. No, all it's preventing is that person who needs a firearm to protect themselves probably can't afford one now.
Now, especially if they're on a budget as it is.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been trying to do, you know, since the 1934 National Firearms Act was, let's just put a tax on this, which a $200 tax at that point in time is about equivalent of $4,000+ today. So ultimately, if I wanted to own my Mark 18, the only SBR that I own, or any of the silencers you see behind me, I would have to essentially pay for inflation corrected $4,000 in addition to the price of the gun, right? But of course, back in time, $200, and thankfully it's only stayed $200. It shouldn't exist at all, but like I said, thankfully it hasn't increased with inflation and everything else. So what they ultimately want to do is prevent criminals, that's exactly what they tell us, at least. Like, hey, we want to make it as difficult as possible for criminals to acquire these
but that shit's
mass killing devices.
Criminals are not buying guns. You know what I mean? Like at the gun store and like doing paperwork. They're not. It's sort of insane. Like the genie's out of the bottle at some point. I think I read somewhere, and I'm not sure it's true, but that 1/3 of all firearms in the world are owned by the American citizen population, which is impressive.
If guns were the issue, I think we'd be seeing a whole lot more catastrophic results, since 46% of Americans own firearms, and as you said, 1/3. Actually, it's getting closer to almost half of all private ownership of firearms are found here in the United States. You know what I mean? Like, if guns were truly the problem, we would have Holocaust level deaths every year. And even then, they still try to skew the numbers. You know, I mean, you can look up any of the statistics that any anti-gunner tries to show at you, like, hey, 30,000 deaths a year. And it's like, okay, well, wait a minute now. How many of those deaths are suicides? It's not fair to kind of rule that into that, because you can factor into the underlying issues of suicide, right? And so again, it's the statistics they try to throw at you are skewed in the favor of, anti-gun talk, and it comes from, ironically, both parties too. This isn't a one political party over the other. Obviously, the Democrat and hard-leaning leftists are much more anti-gun than the Republicans, but there are still those that wear the Republican name that still back and support anti-2A legislation, like open carry laws, right? And still even look to add on taxes, like you were talking about before, like to ammunition and to firearms. And then there's states like New Hampshire that has no income or sales tax. So,
that is a benefit.
That is a benefit, and we got constitutional carry,
they use words like, there's no reason for civilians to own military style weapons. They love saying that as well. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, we don't need military weapons on the streets. Well, okay, why do the police have them? Do you know what I mean? So this idea that somehow, that 2A is not 2A is about a parity of power. It's not about this idea of, oh, you need a gun to go hunting. Like, that's never what it was about. It was about having a parity of power to make sure things were sort of leveled the playing field. So, if they have it, I should be able to have it. And that was it, well, we didn't have AR-15s when the founding fathers said it doesn't make a difference. What they had is what the government had at that point, and that's all that mattered. So that parity should move up in position,
And here's, such, and by the way, Mike, you appreciate the super chat, buddy. Gentlemen, good discussion tonight. Thanks. Thank you. You're absolutely right. And I like to take it one step further when they say, weapons of war don't belong on our streets or whatever else. I'm sorry. The Second Amendment made it adamantly clear that you're right. They don't belong in our streets. They belong in our homes. If I want to own a 155 millimeter howitzer, I actually should have the right to own that. I should be able to own that. And you can in this country. You just have to have a destructive devices license and so on and so forth. The thing is, though, is you're right. Weapons of war, these military style weapons, don't belong on the street. They belong in our homes. They belong with individuals that are willing to take that responsibility when it comes to owning those firearms. And they shouldn't have to be regulated or go through a bunch of loopholes. I shouldn't say loopholes, or go through a bunch of hoops to be able to own such weaponry. Like, no, dude, this is we were legitimately founded with tax evading criminals that stole weapons of war, military weapons, to fight tyranny, to give us the country that we have today. That's in my blood. That's
to me, the Bill of Rights is like a perfect spell against tyranny. And like, if you remove any line from that spell, the spell does not work. You know what I mean? And I think that it's one of those things that, like, we must preserve a magic spell that has held and works for the most part. But the minute you change a line in it, we're fucked. So.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And then, of course, there's all these arguments about, so you think, that anybody should be able to own RPGs or nuclear weapons. And it's like, all right, let's get really real here about what we can actually own. And then let's take a look also at throughout the course of history, has it been citizens, law-abiding citizens, or rebels? Has it been a populace that has been responsible for more death, or has it been government? And if you take a look at the book Death by Gun Control by Zellman, he goes through and lists within modern history how many hundreds of millions of lives have been lost due to disarmament and government having the monopoly on these weapons of war and this monopoly on violence. And there is a price to a free society, and you will get, unfortunately, death and people doing the wrong thing. It's ultimately our job at the end of the day, again, as a free society, to take it upon ourselves to protect that freedom. Yep. You get what I'm saying? Yep. I'm not going to let the government jeopardize my freedom, just like I'm not going to let some asshole who might kick in my door one day jeopardize my freedom. Yep. Either one of them is going to be met with force. That's all there is to it. I'm not saying, as long as it's justified force, right? If a cop's coming to knock on my door because he's looking for a suspect that went running, I may or may not have seen him. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to answer it with a gun. Just to be adamantly clear.
Yeah, that and just the importance of self-reliance. If you say, oh, well, police departments have this or the military has that, at the end of the day, they're not coming to save you. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to sort of be your own defense department. And that's some real shit, because at the end of the day, when the shit goes down, and it might not ever. I always say, like, you'll probably be fine or you might not. Prepare for both, So at some point, having the stuff, knowing how to use it, being well trained with it, I think is super important. Last time anyone should have to learn how to use a gun is when they need to use a gun. And that,
Dude, that's another great point too. When I was talking with Licentia, that's something exactly they said. The first time that you run into that oh shit moment, or the first time you're figuring out your gear, shouldn't be the first time that you're having to use it. You know what I'm saying? The Barefoot Gardener, Brandon Herrera for AFT. Let's go.
Which is when people used to give shit to people, but like, oh, why are these guys out there running plate carriers and all that stuff? And you go like, all right, like, as much as like, sure, it's a little bit of LARPy, but at the end of the day, shooting with a plate carrier on isn't easy. Running with all that gear on isn't easy. The last, like, you shouldn't have to be like, wait until the world fires about to be like, now I'm going to run this gear and try and figure out, oh, no, my sling's caught on this fucking thing and it sucks. Like, train with all your gear on and fucking get good with it. And who gives a shit if fucking someone's giving you grief for it? Because at the end of the day, you're going to feel confident in your gear because you know how to use it.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's, people don't understand it, because I kind of laugh at the term LARP and things like that, because there's Medal of Honor recipients that will pretty much advocate against civilians running body armor, night vision, whatever else like that. And all due respect, that's an improper way to think, because in a war zone in which he served in, there were civilians that had lawful possession of AK-47s by the United States government that deemed it lawful to protect their homes, that were in the middle of a war zone. At any point in time, your civilian populace can become your front line. Look at Ukraine, look at the course, look at history. Are we so arrogant as to think that that cannot happen here one day? And I'm not going to leave it up to some asshole who thinks that I'm a LARPer to the clown on me, to shame me away from running drills in full kit. Fuck you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to look better than you, because I'm going to spend the time, the money, and the training to do it. That's all there is to it. You know what I mean? So anybody that wants to talk shit like that, tell them to shove it where the sun don't shine, put on your gear, go run some drills, and then be the badass that your dog thinks you are. You know what I mean? Like, that's all.
Yeah, and also realize how hard it is to run all that dope gear that you have. And I do think that that's something that, like, like you said, like the last time you want to be like, last moment you want in your life is like, oh, I've never put any of this shit on. Now I'm going to try and figure it out. It's cumbersome. It's going to suck. Get time behind it and get comfortable within it. And then after you run enough, you're going to go, I'm so good with running that. I do not want to run that because running it is not fun. You know, like running around level 4 plates is not a good night for me.
Dude, it is cardio at the end of the day too. You really do get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm out of shape.
Totally.
You know, like, man, and you find that out when you're running night vision. You find that out when you're, putting on a ballistic helmet. You find that out when you're putting on plates. You find that out when you're putting on extra ammo. And this setup right here, I mean, you're looking at an additional, it depends on the loadout, anywhere between 15 to 20 pounds, and then you run all that on. Then you have your rifle, depending on the rifle setup. Let's just average it out to be about 8 pounds. And then you've got the rest of your gear. And that's not even the
helmet with some nods and some counterweights on it. Yeah, I mean, it's the battle belt, a bunch of fucking ammo on that.
Yeah. By the way, the gentleman that commented here, Alex, we need to hang out with this guy. He's got his YouTube channel, and he does like shit that would make me want to have a gun on me, like Bigfoot hunting and paranormal type shit. Yeah. It's like one of those things like a gun would probably do nothing, but it would just make me feel better in the moment. You know what I mean?
Cryptid research team, dude.
Yeah, dude. He does some cool shit, man. But anyway, his comment, people are arrogant enough to believe it can't happen. Unfortunately, normalcy bias is very real. My parents never thought Yugoslavia would fall apart, and their whole generation was shocked when it did. Yeah.
Dude, I agree. I mean, to me, I feel like America has a chance of balkanizing any day. It could happen. You know what I mean? It's like you see states being like, fuck that, we're seceding. And we all watched it in that stupid Civil War movie. It's like it's not an insane reality, unfortunately. It's a possibility that has to be, essentially, like, at least as a thought exercise, be presented. The idea of just saying, oh, it's never going to happen. No, it could happen.
It could definitely happen. And it happened here multiple times within the last 300 years, within the last 250 years. Yeah. Like, y'all, it can happen. We've seen it take place through natural disasters. We've seen just society collapse within hours. Yeah. And then what, dude? And then all of a sudden it's like, at that point, it's like, okay, what other necessities have you invested in? At that point, I'm like, all right, do I got enough food for my family? Right?
We had like low grade apocalypse in LA, like this past month, where it was like, the level of chaos that starts to happen in a moment like that. You can feel it in the air, the strangeness, the sort of chaotic moments, the way people drive, the way people get selfish, the way people, will get aggressive in a store, the way that, like, people are looting homes that in like areas that have been evacuated. They're like, oh, level 2 evacuation. And like, no, I'm not going to leave because someone's going to steal shit from my house. It's like shit gets so crazy so fast in the blink of an eye that, like, the idea of saying, well, I'll just like, as the temperature raises, then I'll figure it out. No, like that 1 degree difference is the temperature change that causes something to go, what the fuck just happened? Like, that's how close on the brink we are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Justin's bringing up a good point, by the way. He's saying he's trained with a lot of service members and law enforcement officers that can't shoot for shit. And I'm still in, dude. I'm 14 years in. I'm at a point now in my service where I'm like, maybe I just want to get out, right? Like, I've got so much going on in my life. If I can take away one thing that takes me away from my family, my kids, my fiance, then maybe I should do that, even if it is not that often. If there's somewhere I can trim a little fat, you know what I mean? Yeah. With that being said, 14 years, I get it. I'm in the reserves. I get it. I'm a pogue. All right. Like, I'm not an infantry guy. Don't train with the infantry. But I can tell you right now, a majority of your military is supporting the infantry. Your majority of your military is not infantry. A majority of your military, therefore, does not train in and out with a weapon system. Therefore, your majority of your military doesn't know how to shoot. They qualify once a year, as do most law enforcement officers, and that's that. And a lot of them have a hard time even doing the bare minimum just to pass. So if somebody ever says, oh, I was in the military, I know what I'm doing, don't listen to them, because most people that have served that do know what they're doing are a little bit more humble and they don't have to announce it like that, because typically their reputation and their point of impact speaks for itself.
Yeah. I also think there's like a delineation that I've noticed between like really well-trained civilians versus like, you know, your average military bro. It's like, as a civilian, you train as an individual, whereas military people were like, you know, part of a team and a large infrastructure, and they served a role within that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're ever by, like, when the shit goes down, you don't have the infrastructure of a full team and the American military behind you. You have an individual. So in many ways, you sort of have to like learn how to do more things as a civilian. But you know, I do think that obviously there's a lot of stuff that military people can teach you, and they have learned. I mean, radio stuff is such a fucking quagmire. If you get a military guy that can teach you radio, listen, you know.
Yeah, most of the Marines that I've served with could teach you how to clean a bathroom really good. All right. All right. Which, by the way, so talking about teams, I forgot to come back to the home defense aspect, because you mentioned before about a shotgun, and here's my thing about shotguns for home defense. All right. I will absolutely agree with right now. There's no denying the devastating effect a shotgun will have in close quarters. It is supreme in that manner. The problem is, just like what we're talking about right now, the problem is, I believe that the shotgun, when applied in a team setting, is when it's most capable. As an individual, you have a limited capacity, you have higher recoil, and on top of that, you have a much larger concussive force every time you pull the trigger, which could be more disorienting than that of even a 9mm pistol, right? If you train with it, and this is why I have an issue with shotguns, is most people say, I'm just gonna, and that'll scare them away.
Pray and pray, you know, like.
Or I don't have to aim.
Yeah.
You know, I just got to aim in their general direction and I'll hit them. Or bird shot, because, you know, 100 little holes is a whole lot better than one big one, you know, or something. And it's like,
I will take double-aught buck over 9 though in a close quarter situation, because that's about 9 fucking 9mm bullets
at one time. Yeah, totally get it. You know, but you got about on a good day about, if I ghost load this thing, about 9 rounds, and or depending on some of them say they're 2.
Well, I'd like to think in a home defense situation. Again, like, you know, I'm not talking about like, you know, the Foot Clan is coming in your house. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be like, all right, cool, we got a couple fucking guys, one guy. I don't know. I think that I'm good with my shotgun. I can fucking reload it super quick. Also, I do think that 9 fucking double-aught buck shots probably get something done. I don't know.
That's my issue is, and having now been exposed a little bit more as to what's happening around the world, or around the country at least, is if it's one-on-one, dude. Yeah, there's no denying that shotgun's probably going to come out on top, right? Especially if somebody capable and that's trained with it. Like, yo, me and my 1301, we're homies. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do some work at the end of the day. I'm very comfortable with that 1301. The issue is we saw, especially during COVID, was an increase in a rise of multiple, like even up to sometimes being a dozen home intruders at one time. That's where I start getting a little, you know, but typically on hand, it was anywhere between 3 to 6 is what was becoming more and more popular. If I can find these statistics again, I'll link them in the description afterwards. But anyway, we saw a rise in multiple intruders on home invasions. And again, in a overwhelming scenario, people are either going to forget if it's a pump action, because I've seen this before. They're going to pull the trigger. They've been shooting semi-autos all day, and then they're pulling the trigger again, and they're like, wait, what's going on? Because they weren't expecting that blast of a 12-gauge shotgun, because they've been shooting 5.56 all day. It slightly disorients them. Imagine, you know, like almost a little minor flashbang going off in front of you, right? That's kind of what's happening to these people in that moment. They're like, oh, I need to pump it now. Now I got to go. All right, cool. Let's say you remove that liability, and now you just go with the semi-auto. The other issue is, in a high stress situation, you see it with law enforcement all the time. What's the first thing people do? They just bop, 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 bop. They mag dump the shit out of their gun. first things that somebody's probably going to do, instead of firing maybe one in a security round to check, pop. Now all 7 rounds that you just had loaded in your tube are gone. And let's say that you just wasted them all on one guy. Now you got 2 more coming at you. Do you have time in that application to reload, right? So that's why I'm a little hesitant on shotguns for home defense. Same thing can happen for semi-autos, but you're less likely, like for rifles or anything like that, but you're less likely to probably go through 30 rounds. But at the same time, it's like, I have hesitancies with shotgun just because a lot of people use the stereotypes, and the stereotypes don't bode well with me.
Yeah. I do think if you like, mag dumped your entire tube from like 1301 as fast as you could, I think anyone in that area would be like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
I think the sound of that is so thunderous and scary and so fast that like it would just be like, what does he have? We need to go. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. Like it's terrifying, like no doubt. Like, I mean, I've seen what happens to a target, and let's just say you are one of these intruders and you just saw 7, 9 pellet buck shot just rip through your homie, and there's chunks of him all over you, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I've got some serious PTSD from this home invasion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Oh man, dude.
But yeah, again, too, that's also why you keep a gun in every room, because you go, oh cool, I'm out of this thing, throw the shotgun, grab the pistol out of the kitchen drawer and go.
Yeah, just John Wick that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Oh man, dude. Well, good shit, bro. Tanner's saying it would feel like a fucking earthquake. Yeah, you're not wrong. Sean over here just being the troll. Yeah, but you can't miss with the shotgun, And I'm over here with Crunchy Taco on Twitch too. Good to see you again, man. 300 blackout, bro. My little Sig Rattler. This guy with now my Yankee Hill can on it. My Fold AR with my ADM lower over here. 300 blackout, like LWRCI 300 blackout. My Honey Badger SD sitting over there, 300 blackout. Like, I would probably grab one of my 300s in that situation that we're talking about pretty quickly. I agree with you on that, man. Definitely a CQB win in my bet. And then we've got Solo Gordo, the AA-12 from Expendables will always be epic.
Yeah, I mean, or you get that just that Genesis 12 that we shot out in SHOT Show.
Yep. Which, the Genesis is something that I'm really looking forward to also, man. Well, hey, dude, it's about 11 o'clock over here on the East Coast, and I think it's about time for me to go ahead and start shutting it down.
Yeah,
if you guys wanted to get in any last couple of comments or questions to Lex or myself, feel free to do so. In the meantime, though, Lex, I saw somebody earlier talk about, do you ever make your way down to Tennessee? Do you have any upcoming shows or anything like that?
I don't have anything on the books right now as we're going to tour in the summertime. But we definitely have played Tennessee quite a bit. I'm trying to think. We always play, there's a venue in Nashville called Exit In that we've played a few times. It's pretty cool. Tennessee's cool. I dig it. People just get fucking rip roaring drunk there.
Well, hey guys, keep in mind, and Lex, if you want to go to the range day, you need to fly out, dude. But August 9th and 10th is in Knoxville, Tennessee, is GOA's second annual goals event. And then next year, we're most likely hitting the road because, good problem to have, we're probably going to outgrow the Knoxville Convention Center. So GOA members get in for free because it's, Gun Owners of America's annual event. And dude, it's a good time, man. We're really excited about it, and you should come out.
What goes on at that?
So imagine, if you will, like a miniature SHOT Show, except it's nowhere near as it's a little bit more chill, but also open to the public, right? And I say open to the public because you can pay at the door also if you're not a GOA member. But again, it goes all to support Gun Owners of America, of course. But dude, I mean, and what's cool too is lawful concealed carry at the convention center, and you can actually sell or buy things. You can't sell firearms or ammunition, but if you wanted to buy gear or other stuff, you can do all that. If you wanted to do whatever. If you want Dude, you should, bro. It's a far drive. You know, if you're living in New Hampshire, it wouldn't be that far of a drive. Yeah.
Like, you know, you fly out and bring your shit back, but
yeah, dude. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, it'll be a good time. I think I'm really looking forward to it this year. I think yeah, there's actually a lot of things that are happening with GOA this year. That's gonna be pretty fun. So everybody stay tuned with that. Lex, it was great having you on, bro. One more super chat came through real quick, of course, from Kelsey. Next live with Lex, magic, crystals, and guns, and Nosferatu.
all right, I like it. We got a myriad of topics here, but I think we can weave them in together. I think we can make it.
Dude, Kelsey's so mean to you sometimes, bro.
Kels is up there just trolling from the bedroom. I can already
tell. That's exactly it, too, dude.
Let's go to bed.
Yeah, it is past her bedtime. And just so everybody catches on with the Nosferatu thing, she said for the longest time that Lex was just your mustache.
Hopefully my hairline will be like his pretty soon, too. It would be good. I did like the movie, though. That was awesome.
I thought it was, too. We might watch the extended version tonight. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Sure.
Oh, you guys are going to start this now, where just a bunch of super chats are going to come in at the end, and you're just going to draw this out tonight. Thanks. I'm actually totally cool with that, Lex. You know, you're free to come or go, man. But yeah,
I'm going to dip because I actually have to make a quick phone call because someone's been texting me this whole time. But Clint, thank you for having me on. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll talk soon, buddy.
Yeah, of course, dude. And before you hop off, where can, if any of my viewers are new to you and want to follow you, where can they find you, man?
Alexis Mincolla or 3 Teeth. You can just Google that shit. It'll pop up.
It'll pop up, dude. Man, I appreciate you, bro. It's good seeing you, dude. And I'm looking forward to having you back out here so we can do some more shooting, man.
Likewise, buddy. I'll check you later.
All right. See you, dude.
Peace.
And see you, man. And Tanner, we've got you here. My 1.5-year-old daughter says, hi, Clint. She loves watching your live streams. We should also talk soon about a channel sponsor. Hey, yo, that sounds... I guess I should watch my language some. Tell your daughter I said I'm sorry. But that's awesome, dude. I absolutely love that. Appreciate that, man. Keith, cheers to you as well, guys. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Also, really cool to have Lex on. He's become a really good friend, and he's given me quite a bit of advice to start the channel and continue the channel on and things like that. So awesome guy, guys. And if you like that style of music, that industrial metal, he's got some absolute bangers out there. Check him out. Merchant of the Void is one of the more popular ones that comes out, and their cover of Pumped Up Kicks, awesome. So check them out. I think you guys will like them quite a bit. But I think that's about it for me tonight, guys. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Appreciate every last one of you guys. God bless you all. Have a great week. And I think that's about it. I'm down to the last couple of sips in my cup, so perfect timing. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Love you guys. Appreciate all of you. Kelsey, if you're watching, you know I love you too, girl. And I will see y'all next week or so. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. All right, now I got to go find my outro video because I didn't have it queued up. All right, there it is.